What's up, everybody? My name is Patrick Narcisse, and this is my testimony. So basically, I was born a pastor's son. From the day I was born, my dad was actually writing one of his exams for seminary, and by the time he says he can't even remember what he wrote on the exam, but he just rushed over to the hospital, and when he got to the hospital, I was already born. They told him, "Congratulations, you have a son," and that was me. So essentially, I was born and raised in a Christian family. My dad became a pastor of a small church in Rivière-du-Loup. I think he was maybe 26 years old or so. Some years later, felt called to missions in Haiti, so we moved over to Haiti. In Haiti, I lived with, my parents were born in Haiti, both of them. So we lived with my uncle and aunt and my cousins, but the way things were in Haiti, all my cousins and uncles and aunts, well, most of them, not all of them, we lived on the same street. And the houses were actually connected through the backyards. So we all grew up almost like brothers and sisters, going to school together and hanging out together after school, just always playing around and stuff. So we were very close. In Haiti, we had maids, and it was in Haiti that something happened. Essentially, one of my aunt's maids that lived a few doors away from us ended up sexually molesting me. I don't recall everything that happened. I recall the feeling I had in my stomach, that nausea. It was the first time I had ever seen really pubic hair. So it just like I just remember the feeling of nausea, but I don't remember all the details. But essentially, that was I didn't feel like a victim at the time. I just knew it was supposed to be a secret, and I was supposed to keep it to myself, and I did. I kept it to myself all the way until my early 20s, late teens, early 20s. I hadn't told anyone about it. But basically, that was one of the things that changed my life, basically. From that moment forward, sexuality just took such a big place in my life. To the point where my whole identity was attached to needing to be wanted, needed to be desired sexually, and needing to have women be attracted to me, and so I just went through this whole. So from that day forward, it became almost like an experiment where. Started off with just kissing for years, and then once we moved back to Canada some years later, almost 4 years later, my dad became a pastor of a church here in Ottawa, where he's still pastoring today. Essentially, there I grew a lot, but still, it was still that insecurity, that needing to be desired, needing to be wanted. At the same time, that fear of rejection, and not so much rejection as in, oh, I want to be with you and you don't want to be with me kind of thing, but more so the rejection of loving someone, actually giving yourself to someone, and that person rejecting you. So I became the player, and kept on kissing, progressed into making out, and in my early teens, making out became full-out sex. Essentially, I just went in that cycle of wanting to be desired, wanting to be wanted, but not wanting to ever get hurt. So it's just this cycle of dating a girl, but whenever getting too close, break up with her and right away jump into another relationship with another girl, or dating another girl, or whatnot. And this happened for many years, until I ended up with a girl I was in high school, and essentially it was I thought it was love at the time, but turned out it was just really unhealthy relationship between myself and her. We were both what we thought was love was really a codependence and lust, really. So that was the common factor, I can say. The steady factor in our relationship was pretty much that. Other than that, it was a very unstable relationship. We kept on breaking up, going with other people, coming back together, breaking up again, going back with other people, coming back together. It was a cycle that lasted years. So very unhealthy. And eventually I got to college, and when I got to college, one of my boys got murdered. And it is in that that time was a very difficult time for me. I went into a depression, essentially, and I just didn't care about anything anymore. I didn't care about the consequences of my actions. I didn't care about all this stuff. I just didn't care. And so I was wilding out. I was in clubs every night. I was picking up girls, having sex, didn't care about a thing. And I remember at the time my dad told me, because I was still going to church, my dad told me, you know what, son, this death of your friend is either going to bring you closer to God or further away from God, but you will choose what it does for you. Essentially, it brought me further away from God. I was mad at God that he let my friend get murdered. I was mad. I told God, I'm like, I could have accepted that he died in a car accident. I could have accepted that he died of illness, but I cannot accept that he got murdered. He was beaten to death by 3 guys, and that just, I was so angry at God that I just didn't care about pleasing him. And then because throughout all my teenage years, even though I was wilding out with the girls and stuff like that, I did we went through summer camp all summer long, so I did so many I responded to so many altar calls where I gave my life to God, and only to find myself 2 months down the road, right where I was before. And we'd go to summer camp, and you come back on fire for God, for Jesus, and then next thing you know, 2 months down the road, you're back into the same cycles of having sex and just living a worldly life. So that was a cycle throughout my teenage years. And then after my boy died and that depression, it was during that depression that me and that same girlfriend that kept on breaking up and getting back together throughout years of high school, we ended up conceiving my son. We out of wedlock, of course, and so that brought even more shame, because my dad was contemplating quitting ministry because of me and because of my actions, and I felt the burden of that, of having shamed my family to the point where my dad, which had nothing to do with what I did, might lose his ministry and his career and what he loves because of me. And I decided, I said, Dad, you know, you have to keep doing what you're doing, and even if I have to move out, I moved out of the house, so that he still didn't, the church really came around and embraced me and they tried to be there. Two brothers in particular, my brother Jean-Marc, who's now a pastor of a church in Orleans, and brother Guy. They both really encouraged me throughout this time and tried to speak life into me. So I'm thankful for them and I praise God for them. But I was still not ready to commit my all to Christ. So fast forward, ended up moving to Montreal for close to a year, and that was probably the furthest I've ever been from God, because it's in that time where the things you couldn't do when you were living with your parents, I ended up doing them when I moved to Montreal, whether it was getting the tattoo, getting your ears pierced, all that stuff, you know. In my culture, it's not looked upon very highly when someone does those things. So I waited until I was out of my parents' house and 2 hours away to be able to do those things, and I did them, and it was just very empty. Didn't go to church almost for that whole time, other than when I would come see my son on some weekends, and when I came to Ottawa, I would go to my parents' church. But during that whole time, I was so far away from God. And my son's mother and I decided we were going to give it another try. So I moved back to Ottawa to give it a try, and we gave it a try, and unfortunately it's an unhealthy relationship with an unhealthy foundation. Unless it's God, will not be healthy. Unless God does something, it's not going to be healthy. So it wasn't healthy, so it didn't work out. But what ended up happening is I ended up getting into another relationship with another single mother. So we were both single parents, and my parents disapproved of that relationship. But when I moved back to Ottawa, I moved back with my parents. And my parents disapproved of the relationship. But that was the first woman I can say that I loved. So I ended up leaving my parents' house, leaving my parents' church. My son's mother gave me a hard time about seeing my son just because I was in that other relationship. So it ended up being that I pretty much gave up everything for that one relationship with this girl and her daughter, and became a father to her daughter for those years we were together, and eventually she left me. And that was devastating, of course, because I had given up everything for that girl. But in leaving me, she really helped me, because all that time that I used to spend with her, all that time that I used to spend in the relationship, I determined that I was just angry at women for a little while. So I was like, you know what, I don't want to know anything about women. I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to date. I don't want to have sex. I don't want nothing. I just want to be left alone. And that time that I wanted to be left alone, I ended up saying, you know what, God, you know, that time I'm going to give it to you. So that time I just spent reading Christian books, reading my Bible, and listening to sermons, and going to church, and I would spend that time at church. I played on the worship team at the new church that I went at. Eventually I started, the church started seeing my interests and such, and they started giving me more responsibility, and ended up becoming the leader of the young adults group. In the young adults group, it was a young adults group for different churches called Life Plus, and I would lead that group, but in my heart I was not yet right, because I would still sort of dabble in that whole sexual realm with women, and I was just still linked, my identity was still linked to that, to needing to have a girl desire me and needing to have a woman there. I couldn't be alone.